Hi, this is Daniel Hutchins, and today we're going to be doing an Screen Rant article discussion. Today's Screen Rant article discussion, we are going to be talking about Captain America. So the 10 sad things about Captain America. Okay, so although he is a true hero, the MCU Captain America is actually a very tragic figure. Here are some sad things about him. Now this was actually a day ago, so this is fairly recent. So Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, is a complicated character in the MCU. Many people like him for his determination to make the world a better place, while others aren't so happy with the Captain's no-nonsense personality and old-fashioned principles. Whatever the case is, Captain America's journey has been long and eventful in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Related is the Marvel Cinematic Universe 10 things that make no sense about Steve and Peggy's relationship. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. So he first started his career as a superhero during World War II, like we all would know, only to later join the Avengers in the 21st century. And even though he found a new family with the Avengers for a while, there are many tragedies in his journey. Okay, so coming off on number 10, he had watched Bucky fall to his death. Okay, that is very sad. But okay, so Bucky's always Steve's best friend, and the two men were inseparable, both before and during the war. So when they went on a mission together, Steve was unable to save Bucky from falling to his death from a train, and it really devastated him. Little did he know that Bucky would not only survive but show up again decades later as the anti-hero, Winter Soldier. Okay, so number 9. He lost almost everyone he loved. Okay, that is pretty sad too, gotta admit. But even though he acclimated fairly well in modern times, in the end, it is impossible to overlook what Steve Rogers was the happiest when he was in his time. Yes, it was during World War II, but it was the world Steve knew. Oriented it so perfectly. So when he woke up in the future and realized that most of the people he knew and loved were dead, it had hit him really hard. So, coming up at number 8, he experiences Peggy's death. Now that is very, very sad. But the worst moment for Steve Rogers came when his one true love, Peggy Carter, died. Peggy was really old and seemed to have lived a good life. But Steve still wanted her by his side and missed her when she died in her sleep. He went to her funeral, was one of the men who carried Peggy's coffin, and it was obvious from his behavior that Peggy's death had upset him very much. Coming up at number 7, when the Avengers fell apart. Once he wakes up in the 21st century, Steve Rogers lives for his work as Captain America, finds time for nothing else, including some personal relationships. Related to this article is the Marvel Cinematic Universe top 10 male characters ranked by hand-to-hand combat. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. So when the Avengers fell apart because of the Accords, Steve suddenly loses his one purpose in life. Instead of helping people like he used to, he goes on a run and suddenly becomes a wanted man. Coming up at number 6, he couldn't stop Thanos. Yeah, that's pretty sad. But Steve is well accustomed to failure, but that doesn't mean he likes it. He had lost Bucky, wasn't able to save Dr. Erskine, and he also lost against Thanos, which is something Steve never forgave himself for. Even after many people had moved on, Steve had kept trying to fix things, was always the one who went to see Tony and ask him for help, only to initially just get refused. Coming up at number 5. He was lonely after Bucky went to war. Even though the films didn't address it directly, by the time Captain America the First Avenger started, Steve had already lost his parents, something he had in common with his fellow friend, Tony Stark. The only person who is there for Steve is his best friend Bucky. But when Bucky leaves the fight in the war, Steve remains alone and becomes even lonelier than before. Coming up at number 4, he had to give up his shield. Now that's pretty sad. But after the fight between Iron Man and Captain America that broke the Avengers once and for all, or for at least a few years, Tony demanded Steve's shield, since his father Howard Stark made it for him. Steve then leaves his shield beyond as well, with his identity as Captain America. Related to this article is the Marvel Cinematic Universe 10 actors you forgot were in Captain America trilogy. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. He becomes a criminal in the eyes of government, at least by a semblance of a calm life he had before it is gone. Now we're at number 3. He can't connect to people. So in one of the deleted scenes of Avengers 2012, it became obvious that Steve Rogers lacks a sense of purpose after he arrives in the 21st century. He looks quite depressed and alone, but not sure what he to do for himself. He also struggles to connect to other people. So simple stuff such as talking to a pretty waitress who clearly likes him is something Steve cannot do. Number 2. He acts in a bad way sometimes. It would be a mistake to think that Captain America is perfect, just like his friends. He's only human except Thor, and as such, he makes mistakes too. Yet many people who watch the films tend to hate Captain America because of the mistakes more than they hate on others. Yeah, it's true that Steve insulted Tony and lied to him, but no friend of the Avengers is a saint, and even Captain America deserves to be cut a bit of slack. Okay, so coming up at number 1. He doesn't build romantic relationships. Even though Peggy Carter turns out to be the love of Steve's life, he had plenty of opportunities to build relationships with fellow women during his time in the 21st century. Perhaps not to be so alone. Okay, but the most notable example is his relationship with Natasha, who not only kissed Steve, but suggested they could be more than friends. And they do had a lot in common. However, Steve quickly friend-zoned her, and Natasha never mentioned it again. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bonus for you. I'm going to do Marvel Cinematic Universe 10 Christmas movies Captain America would love. Okay. So, this is a bonus. 10 Christmas movies Captain America would love. Since Captain America missed out a lot of history of movies when he went into the ice, there were many Christmas movies he would have probably have loved. Okay. There comes a moment every year, even ones as strange in 2020, where the fan's mind turned toward the topic of Christmas films. From classical films, from all ages to adult romps and cult classics. I mean, everyone has a favorite, but what about fictional characters? Well, hypothetically speaking, would their favorite films be? Related to this article, Bah Humbug, 10 holiday movies for people who don't like holiday movies. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. What would someone like Steve Rogers, Captain America, the Man of Time, enjoy to watch in this holiday season? Would he enjoy modern movies, older films, for a guy who's a century 100 years old? Or both? Which is a perfect question for this season to answer, given the fact it's almost Christmas. So, coming up at number 10, A Miracle on 34th Street, 1947. Now, we all know that's a classic. Hands down, we know that's a classic. So, having faced down gods, aliens, and robots, Steve probably realized a long time ago Santa Claus was made up. But yet, that doesn't mean the old soldier wouldn't appreciate the idea of Santa. Such as the ever-classic Miracle on 34th Street. Of course, one could consider this film to be one of the best Thanksgiving movies ever made. But it works well as a Christmas film as well. Again, it'd be amazing to see Steve watch a movie about a little girl and Santa Claus becoming friends and just see a smile spread across his face. It's a film that Steve would just appreciate. Its good-naturedness and sweet, inspiring story that has captivated so many people in the past. Now, coming up at number 9, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, 1966. Okay, it may be a little strange to think of an old-timer like Steve watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas. However, given all the time Steve spent on the ice, it wouldn't hurt for him to see a few animated movies. Some maybe Sam has suggested he check out. With wonderful animation that still holds up, great music and voice chorus, smooth tone. Over it all, Steve would no doubt be enraptured by an animation gem. There's a chance he might finish the film and then start it up again. Okay, coming up at number 8. This is one that we don't really see a lot of, but this is called Holiday Inn, 1942. So now Holiday Inn is a film that would bring some memories back to Steve. Chances are, though, at some point of his tours, even before getting a super soldier serum, Steve had sat down and watched Holiday Inn back home before everything had hit the fan. Related or 10 of the coziest holiday movies you can already stream on Netflix today. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. So the quirky little love story would be a walk down memory lane for Steve. A way for him to feel like he's back in the past, without having to physically be there, and let memories of old wash over him. With maybe his pal Lucky. Coming up at number 7, we have Scrooge, the 1970 version. So there's a good chance after seeing this movie, Steve may force Tony to sit down and watch it. Mainly just for the laughs, though. Scrooge, based on A Christmas Carol, is a film that goes back through the years, but the one that many consider being the best is the one with the recent departed Albert Finney at the helm of the money pincher, Ebenezer Scrooge. Steve would have probably had a good laugh watching a man like Scrooge be taken down a peg, and then proceed to poke fun at Tony on the pair's similarity. Okay, so coming up at number 6. This is one of my favorites of all classics of all classics. White Christmas, 1954. Musicals. Truth is, it'd be surprising if any of the Avengers did like musicals. Not that they would make bad films, but just over time, they can become repetitive and oftentimes derivative, with the same songs blending together. But of course, there's always the off chance that White Christmas might be different. Full of good-natured films and themes, and well-thought-of ideas, this musical film might just interest Steve and get him interested in others, like White Christmas, and may even get the other Avengers involved with it as well. Coming up at number 5, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Your original TV special cartoon from 1970 by Rankin Bassett Entertainment. Again, it's highly possible that the likes of Steve Rogers would be trying to catch up on classic movies and stories, would stumble across the almost iconic Santa Claus Coming to Town. Would be a pretty straightforward animated flick with an interest in time. Related 10 Christmas movies 80s kids love, according to Information Movie Database. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. But it's very possible Steve may even sit down and watch the flick with Peter Parker. It's highly likely Steve might spend half the movie marveling and being entranced by the simple yet intricate animation, all while Peter keeps checking his phone, waiting for a flick to end. Coming up at number 4, Home Alone 1990. After putting Tony through the elbow prodding and rifling of a Christmas Carol, Tony would want to get back to Steve. He then subjects Steve to one of his own favorites, Home Alone, an all-time Christmas movie favorite for the 90s kids. But of course, Steve would probably just get caught up in a story of kid taking on robbers with nothing but household supplies. It could end up reminding him of Bucky or even Natasha after watching the somewhat sadistic movie. Not to mention that Kevin McAllister could probably win against the likes of Jigsaw. Steve could probably show it to either one of them and inspire them for all the wrong reasons, that is. Now we come up at number 3, Elf from 2003. This is probably one of the best of the best of the best. So every now and then, a blatant comedy is all anyone really needs to get for the season. The neat ideas and unique humor can allow an audience to just have fun for a few hours instead of searching for in-depth meaning. While most of the films have this kind of methodology to it, most films have a deep message like Elf. A Christmas movie many believe should get a reboot doesn't have the same qualms. There may be a message inside of it, but it's usually not as deep as others. It is the perfect film for Steve to just unwind with. Now we're coming up at number 2, Love Actually, 2003. So okay, this one's a lie. This isn't a movie Steve would enjoy. The rom-com that many see as being one of the best holiday films of the 2000s is full of cheesy scenes and dialogue would maybe turn Steve off, but would intrigue the love of his life, Peggy Carter. Related is 10 live-action family movies that are perfect for Christmas. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about something else. And if Peggy finds herself falling in love with the cheesiness, Steve would begrudgingly sit down with his longtime gal, work his way through it for her, and who knows, maybe after a few time viewings, Steve may come to appreciate a flick. And now, for the number 1, It's a Wonderful Life, 1946. Now that is a very, 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 very old classic that a lot of us know. So, It's a Wonderful Life is a delightful movie with a heartfelt story, timely themes, and a decent amount of parodies. It makes for one of the best Christmas movies of all time, and it created would-be warm moments that would warm Steve's heart in more ways than one. See, It's a Wonderful Life essentially saved James Stewart's career. The movie was Stewart's first after returning from serving in World War II overseas, and after the horrors of the war, was debating about giving up acting before starring in Christmas classics. It ended up being one of the Stewart's best movies. For soldiers like is a Christmas miracle all in itself. So there you go, guys. That is all that I'm going to talk about today. This is a long video, so it's like 20 minutes. And so I hope you enjoyed this extra bonus about what type of Christmas movies Steve would like to watch if he had the chance to. And again, please let me know what your comments are. Please hit a thumbs up and subscribe. And it is currently going almost on 11:30 at night. So yeah, I'll catch you guys for another video then. Bye.